Welcome back to Marion's World and a new page to start. I'm starting off what I was originally going to do on the tulip page, but I swapped them round because the tulips were probably coming to a finish, and so I put them in earlier. And I'm going back to some flat embroidery and some new stitches. I'm going to do a wreath of flowers, and there'll be maybe open roses or peonies and forget-me-nots and daisies and whatever else, leaves, and maybe a butterfly or a bee or something like that up there. But some new stitches definitely will be on the go. So first things first, I've drawn on my wreath, and all I've done is I picked up a bowl that would fit on, and my bowl size is, of course you can use whatever size you want, but the one I'm using is 5.5 inches diameter, which is 14 centimeters. And so that's what I've done, and I've just drawn around it with my disappearing pen. So that's the first thing. The second thing is I really would like to do this in a hoop. For one thing, it's clearer to show everybody, and for another, some of the stitches are definitely easier to do. And as you can see, my big hoop is too big to go on here, but that shouldn't be a bother to anybody. Even if you wanted to embroider on a tiny little piece like that and you have a big hoop, there are things you can do. And so all I'm going to do is, I've got a piece of spare cotton here, I'm just going to baste it onto the edge of here, which will then mean that my piece of fabric is large enough to put the hoop on. And so that's the first thing I'm going to do. I've just taken a thread from my tangle and I've just tacked it down along the edge, leaving all the embroidery area free, but it's just overlapped by about, quarter of an inch or so, and big tacking stitches in a contrast colour, which means they're easy to pull out, and at the end I'll just pull on the knot here and the whole length will pull out and it can go back in my tangle. So for the foundation circle, I'm going to use this brown crewel wool. I don't know whose it is. If I have a guess, it might be Vintage Penelope or something like that. If you haven't got crewel wool, by all means use maybe 3 strands or 4 strands of embroidery floss, or you could split down tapestry wool, and you could even use a fine knitting wool. None of that would be any bother. But the first stitch that I am going to show you is twisted chain stitch. So I've done chain stitch on some of the other pages, and to do it with the hoop, I'm going to go back down into the same place as I've just come up. Take a stitch along, I'm going to say about quarter of an inch, and I'm going to loop my thread round. And that is a normal chain stitch. And to do a normal chain stitch again, I'm going to go down inside the loop and come up again a quarter of an inch along my line into the loop I've just made again. Now I'm happy just doing this because I know this is going to get hidden underneath my future embroidery, but that is a normal chain stitch. To do a twisted chain stitch, everything doesn't come up in the loops, so I am going to go down. Instead of being inside the loop, I'm going to go to the side of it. So I'm just going to go to the side and a little bit in front. So that's probably a couple of millimeters to the side, but I'm going to come up the same quarter of an inch on my line. And what that means is I'm going to go that way around my needle. So I've put the needle in on the left, and I'm going to wrap my thread round towards the right, and that means when I pull through, what I get is a twisted stitch. And I'll do that again, and I will try and do a right-handed one as well. So I'm going to go down to the side of my loop, come up on the line. I'm going the opposite way around the needle and I'm pulling through, and it makes a really lovely stitch. I'll do that right-handed if I can. So I'm going to go down to one side. I can't do it right-handed, I'll do it like this. I'm going to go down to the side, come up the 1/4 inch on my line. So I've put the needle into the right, I'm going to wrap to the left and pull through to get my stitch. So needle into the right, up on the line, wrap to the left. So it doesn't really matter which way around you do it, because you're going to get a slightly different, you're going to get the little tails to either the outside or to the inside. But in the end, it doesn't really matter. If you're right-handed and you want the tails to the inside, you're probably going to have to go the opposite way around to me. But in the end, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to take those out so that my stitching looks the same. Okay, and there I am ready to go again, left-handed way around. So a couple of mils to the side, my 1/4 inch up. My needle's gone in from the left, I'm going to wrap to the right and pull my stitch through. And I'm going to do this all the way around until I've done my circle. And this is a really nice stitch. If you don't want to do this stitch, you could absolutely just do a plain chain stitch. You can do a stem stitch. You could do whipped running stitch or whipped back stitch. Any of those lovely stitches that make a really nice line, a curvy line, are going to be fine. Just thought it would be nice to go back to doing some new stitches. And you can see how easy this stitch is. It does give a very different effect from normal chain stitch because you have the little leg poking out. And I've got just enough slack in my hoop that my right hand is pushing up underneath and allowing me to do it in one gesture, one movement, which just makes it easier to watch on camera probably. You might want to do shorter stitches or longer stitches. It'll all change the effect. And in the end, just do what you think looks lovely for you. All I'm doing is helping you find out new ways of putting your needle and thread through the cloth and getting something beautiful that hopefully you then adapt to your own style, to do your own thing. So because I'm in this stand, I'm just going to, it's getting a bit awkward, I'm just going to turn my hoop around in the stand. I'm supposed to be filming a little garden update, but it's pouring down. I think we've had such a wet spring. I chose brown because I was thinking of willow wreaths like I put on my front door. And originally I was just going to do whipped back stitch, one of my favourites. And then I thought, oh no, I want a thicker line, so then I went to chain stitch. And then I was thinking, oh, it would be nice to show a new stitch. I thought, oh, twisted chain stitch. that's just how the decision came as to what I decided to do. Now, instead of wrapping around each individual chain, like going like that and then wrapping, you can set up your loop ready by just laying it in onto the same side as your needle is going in. So my needle's going in to the left, which is the top at the moment, the way that I've got my hoop angled. So I'm going to just push my thread up to the top or to the left, put my needle in, take my stitch and pull through the loop. So the thread lies to the same side as your needle is entering the cloth, and then the loop is set up ready to be crossed. I know there's people out there that don't like hoops at all and like to do it all in hand. That's perfectly fine. You'll probably need to do the stitch in 2 goes maybe. I'm not sure. I haven't tried this because I like both ways. I like working in a hoop and I like working in the hand, but I do it for different reasons. And some of these more traditional stitches do benefit from being worked on a taut fabric, and you just can't quite get the same effect, or you run into the chance that you will pull your fabric. And it just depends. Maybe you want the fabric pulled, maybe that's an effect you want to have. That's okay, you can do what you want. But most of these are designed to be worked on the fabric being held taut. And actually just me being able to push up from the inside is probably meaning it's not taut enough. But that's just the way that I've adopted the way that I work. Okay, I'm going to take my hoop out again and finish off right the way to the end. Just thought I'd show you what the back was like. It has a nice slanted stitch on the back, which just goes round and round. That's quite nice and just a neat start. And I'd like to just thicken this up with some twigs, and I'm just going to draw in an arc. And the easiest way is to use your hand as the thing that pivots, because you'll get a nice arc that way. So this is really for those of you who think they're no good at drawing. Drawing sometimes is simpler than people realise. So there's 2 things I could do. I could take my original bowl I drew round and I can put it on there and I can draw a part of an arc. That's perfectly fine. Just find something that's a good shape for you to draw around. If you want to do something freehand and I want my arc to go here, I can just set my heel of my hand in tight and then just use the movement of my hand to make the arc. So I want it to come here. So I need my hand, which is my left hand, so that's the natural part of where my hand's going to move. So I'm just going to turn my hoop a bit so that I'm not trying to do anything awkward. I'm just going to go with the natural flow of my hand, start there, and I'm going to keep the heel of my hand down on the fabric, and I'm just going to let my hand move. I'm not trying to do anything else, I'm just letting my hand move. And there I've got an arc coming out of my circle. And I'm going to do another one down here. I'm going to just put my hand on, put my pen there, and I'm not moving my pen, I'm just going to move my hand. You can practice it on some paper to make sure that you're doing what you'd like to do. And there my arc comes out naturally. And I think I want to do a third one, so I'll turn my hoop around again. I get my hand set, I do a little practice without putting the pen down, and then I go in and just let my hand move. But use your original form, use something smaller. I could have used a cup, could have used all sorts. I've taken a different colour thread in my needle. I've got this dark grey. I actually wanted a darker brown, but I don't have one, so I'm going to do this dark grey. I just want to signify that it's a different stem. And I'll start at this one down here. I'll just come up from the base, and I'm actually just going to do a split stitch. And of course all my blue lines, they'll just go out with water at the end. If you're happy freehanding your lines, then go for it. They don't have to be drawn on. And I'm just going to curve the top of this line over. I'm going to curve it a bit more, I think. I'm going to do all of these lines. And again, just practice the curve until you're happy with it. Draw it until your hand can do it fluently, or fluidly I should say, and then do it on your fabric. I've finished this curve here, and I just did that with stem stitch, but I amended the line. So instead of following the line I drew, I followed it so far and then started to curve it down because I wanted it to be more hanging. And then I realised I'd made a mistake. And you know, if you're watching my channel, I don't cover up mistakes. I show you what I do about them. This is not too bad. It was just the fact that I'd gone around making all the curves in the same direction. But actually what I want is, this is the bottom of my arrangement. So I wanted this curve here to be coming up from the bottom as well. So that curve's going the wrong way. So what I am going to do is just get a bit of water. Now I could do it on a cotton bud or a brush, but I don't have them to hand, so I'm just going to drip water on with my finger and get that blue line out of the way so that I can put the proper one on. And it was just because I was turning my work round to show you the curves and just forgot that I wanted this one to go up here. So I would like a curve to go up here and be lower than that one. I'm going to do back stitch. I'm going to come up here and I'm just going to freehand the curve on because my fabric's now wet, so I don't want to put my disappearing pen on in case it just makes it bleed through the wet fabric. But it won't take long to dry, but I'll just put this on freehand in the meantime. So I'm just going to do a little curve coming up here. And that'll do it. So I'll finish that off. I did say it was a little bit thin, so maybe I'll just come up and just whip this stitch. Yep, to just thicken the line up. That's a good idea. So I haven't whipped right to the end, I'm keeping the fine point. I'm just whipping this back stitch back down to the foundation wreath. And then I'm just going to run it through there to finish off because I know there's going to be embroidery over the top. There we go. I've changed my needle to a sharper one with a smaller point because I'm using 3 strands of embroidery floss in this quite lovely, what I'd call a forest green. It's quite a nice green. And I'm going to put some twigs and leaves on. So all I've done is I've taken my pen. I would have done these freehand, but just to show you, I've added a little twig there. I've carried on with that curve and I've added another piece under there just to give myself a an idea. I've added a little curve here and one on the outside and a one there, just exactly the same way. And I'm just going to use this to put in sort of little twiggy fine bits that are going to look lovely. I'll start at this one here first. I'll just come up at the end, and I think I'm sort of going to use a combination of doing fly stitch and just straight stitches. So the fly stitch, I'll just turn you around a little bit. My fly stitch, I've come up right at the top, going to go up to the side and then back up onto my line and pick up that loop. So it's sort of like a blanket stitch really. And I'm just going to go downwards, make the little stalk go down. And so it's just going to be a bit of straight stitches. We'll do another bit here. I'll come up there. I'll do a longer stitch. Come up for the fly stitch, heading back towards the stem. The legs can be uneven, that's what's going to make it look quite natural. And I'll go down here. If I take it there, it's a bit harsh. I'll angle it into there. And now I can go back up to make another stitch here. In fact, I can carry on with my little fly stitches. I'll go out, instead of taking my stitch down here, I can go past it and put another fly stitch on, come up on my line, and pretty soon you can make a really pretty little, you know, twiggy branch. Do that again. I'm going to come up there, take a bit of a longer stitch so I get an unequal fly. I can go straight back down to there. Come up here and just do a back stitch. And come to the side and go down to there again. Back stitch up, come out to take my little extra bit here. I'll do a little bit more of an angle. And this is going to come down to here, I think. And then I just need to make that fasten into my original wreath. There's a little bit of a gap there. It's not really a bother. I'll just go up here and make an extra stitch. And anchor it into my twisted chain. I'm going to do a similar thing up here. Go up with a stem. In fact, I'll go up with big stitches because the fly stitch and feather stitch, they're always easier to work from the top to the bottom. So I'm just going to go up right to the top and walk my thread. This is what I call walking my thread to the next part. So here I come for my fly stitch. Down I go. I'll just split that stitch as I'm coming down. Out for another one. Whoops. So out for the next one. I'll bring up on the stem so I can cover this part in. I can go out to the next side. And back in and straight down. Like that. can take one over altogether. These might be on view, they might not be on view. I just carry on layering up as if they were real plants, really. So that's quite a nice little twiggy bit coming out there. I think I've got too short a thread to go further, and so I will just fasten off. Sometimes you don't need much to make quite a big difference. And I know that's probably going to be covered, so I'll not do any more on that. I've changed my thread. I'm now in this fine pearl cotton. This is variegated. If you don't have variegated, I would definitely choose a paler green if you're using your stranded cotton. And you definitely need a needle with a sharp point for this next stitch. And what I'm going to do is going to put some buds on these little ends of the fly stitches, and the stitch is actually called granitos, which is a bit of an odd word really, I think. And all it is 3 stitches. I decided to use my thread double. I did my first one and I didn't feel that it was wide enough. It was just too, it wasn't thick enough. So I've doubled up my thread. So I'm doing what's called a granitos, and really it's just 3 straight stitches done in the same place. Basically that is it. You come up at the length you want. I'm using about 1/4 inch. I'm going down at the end of my little twig, pulling in my straight stitch. I come back up to the exact same point and come back up again. I go down at the exact same point, but this time I want this stitch to lie to one side or the other of that stitch, which is going to be the middle of 3. And so what I can do, I can just hold this stitch as it goes in, make sure that it lies to the right hand side or the bottom as you're looking. I come back up, right back to the same point again, and go down back to the same point. And this time I'm going to make sure the stitch lies to the top or the left hand side. I'm just going to help it in with my finger. But if you did have, you could use your scissor just the same. I can put my scissor in there and I can just make sure that as I pull the stitch in, it lies to the side, and what you get is a lovely oval shape that's pointy at both ends. And the other thing to say about it is, don't pull too tight. You don't want them to be pulled totally flat. So you can go straight out from your twig, or you can angle it a bit. So I'm just sort of going to angle that as if it's growing upwards a little bit. I'll go down, back up at the point again, back down at the twig end. I'll put my scissor in just to make so it's all obvious for you that I'm keeping that to one side and just letting it pull till it's in the right place, but I'm not pulling it tight. Back up to the top again. Back down again. And again, I'm just going to use my scissor, or you could use your finger. Just make sure that little stitch lies either side of the centre one, and you get that lovely little pointy bud. Make sure you're coming up through the same stitch hole and down through the same stitch hole. And just be aware, that's a beautiful one, look there. Just be aware of how the stitches are lying, and you'll find that they'll just make the most beautiful little buds. So this is the second new stitch, this is Granitos. I hope I'm saying that right, I've never heard anybody say it. Sometimes you look at words written down, and if you haven't heard them before, sometimes you don't know exactly how they're pronounced. It could be Granitos, Granitos, could be anything, could be a silent S for all I know. Anyway, whichever it's called, this is how you do it. And it's very pretty. And it's just perfect for this type of little bud or little tiny leaf. I'm easing it over with my finger. And then always put the central one in first and do the others one to each side. So I'm just keeping my thread back until the very last end, till it makes that little fat bud. And that definitely is the last one I can do with this thread. So I'll fasten that off, and I will do some more on here. I think I'll do some different ones on there, so I'll finish this little bit off and come back to do another stitch on these bits. I've changed to some thicker pearl cotton. This is a variegated one. I think this will have come from Kate's Cloths again, because it's the sort of thing that I got at the wool show. So I think I must have seen her somewhere before, because it's quite distinctive that it'll be hers. And it's a lot thicker. It's a nice soft pearl cotton. And so I've got a length of it in my needle. I've still got my sharp point. And I'm going to do some leaves on here, but instead of the little Granitos, which I think look super pretty on there, I'm going to do some detached chain. And I'm going to do them sort of the opposite way around you might expect, because you think of chain stitches going to the loop end all the time, so the loop is the top of the stitch. But if I turn it round and do the bottom of the stitch at the very end of my little bud or my little leaf, and I go straight down again, I can make the rounded end be at the bottom of the leaf that I'm trying to do. So I'll come up there, I'll just do a normal chain stitch. So just coming up through the loop. I'm not going to pull it too tight, I'm going to let it have that little opening, and it'll make quite a delicate looking little leaf, I think, or a delicate little bud. Caught around my hoop locker. So I'm going to work from the top, and I'm going to work down and put a little detached chain on the end of every little stick that I've got here. I might be able to do it like that. Just for ease of showing you. And then just anchor it down straight away. I really love variegated thread for the effects it gives on things like this. I check and just leave that. I don't have to go back and fill it in. They don't all have to have something. I think, although I was intending to do either the Granitos or the chain on here, I might want to leave that a bit more delicate. So I'm going to finish this off, and my last piece I'm going to do is put some bigger leaves in here, I think. I'm back with a different colour. I've got all 6 strands of this beautiful olive green stranded cotton, and I've decided just to use all 6. I'm still in with my pointy needle, and I'm actually just going to do some satin stitch on these ones, I think. And all I've gone and done is I've taken my bit of a pattern that I've got, and I've just roughed out some of the, I'll take you back so you can see. I've roughed out some of the design, so I know that I'm going to do something like roses or peonies here. I know I want some leaves, and they're just ovals. They're nothing hard to draw. I'm just going to go straight down here, the length of the leaf, and then back up just to the side. I'm probably about, well, this is quite a this is not that fine a weave because it's an old tablecloth, so I'm probably only 2 threads away from where I started out, and I'm just going to lay in the stitches straight and fill in the leaf. I can do these slanty, which I'll probably do on the next one, but whichever way you put them in, it's just lying the stitches straight beside each other, not crowding them and not leaving a space in between. It's just once they're there. I say I was nearly going to put another one on there, but I don't need it till that leaf is finished. I'll come to the point of this one. So what you can do, you can lie your stitches in. Instead of going straight from there down to the bottom, I can take the sort of the straight bit off the ovally shape. So I can go that way, and then I can come slightly sideways down the leaf. But again, I'm only going a couple of threads away. I can go outside of my lines if I want. Remember, these lines will come off, so you can go outside of them or on the lines, it doesn't matter, or you can do them freehand. And just lay the stitches so that they are lying straight in with each other. You can use your needle to help you keep the stitches straight. I'll show you on this one. So I'll come up here. I haven't even drawn a point on that one, look. So I'll start there. I'll lay in that one. I come back up. Actually, how many threads am I away? I'm actually only 1 thread to the side there. But I can audition where the thread's going to be. I can lie it in like that and realise just where the needle needs to go down. And when I can see where the needle needs to go down, I can just put my needle in. And if that helps you get your stitches laid in straight, then do that until you're confident that you can see exactly where it needs to be. You can do the same with your needle. You can lie your needle, you know where your threads come out, lie your needle alongside, and when it touches the edge of where your drawing is, put your needle down, and it'll be in the perfect place. So, lie your needle in and push it down through the fabric. The main thing is don't pull too tight. Let the stitch have the room to just be. You don't necessarily want it to be loopy, but there's no point pulling things so tight that they lie absolutely flat. You quite often want that, just that little curve, and it shows off the shine, especially if they're stranded cotton. You end up with that lovely sheen that it has, and it gets shown off to the best effect. Just because you've drawn something on doesn't mean you have to follow it slavishly. You can change your mind. You can make a leaf bigger or smaller, or point in the different direction. It's up to you. You can do these in fly stitch or fishbone stitch. Anything you want. But all of a sudden, I'm building up a lovely background for the main event, which will be the bonny flowers. I think when I've done these few leaves, I'll probably leave it there today, as that'll be enough. I'm laying these slightly bigger leaves in a slightly different way, so I thought I'd go back on camera just to show you. I'm still doing satin stitch, but I've put one stitch right down the middle, and then I'm going to do each side independently. So I'm going to choose a little bit further down on the side and a little bit further down in the middle. And a little bit further down on the side and a little bit further down on the middle. And it just means that because it's a slightly bigger leaf, it looks better with the stitches angled towards the middle. So I'm going to come back up, and I'm not going right back up to the point. I'm starting down from the point by a couple of threads, and again I'm just going to go down to the middle and angle the stitches. It's still a satin stitch, but I'm angling those stitches in towards the middle of the leaf. I'm still laying them side by side. It's just that now they will look like they're growing outwards from their central vein. So I've gone back to the 3 strands of the dark thread that I used for these little branches. Just coming up halfway up each leaf. I'll go down at the bottom of the leaf, and then I'll carry on and I'll just stem stitch in the stem that's going down the middle. When I get to the next pair of leaves, I'll go up the middle and just do a straight stitch back to the stem. And I think a darker piece of thread is definitely the way to go. I think what I'll do is I'll leave that there. I think that's quite a good start to the new page. I'm so pleased with the way this little wreath is shaping up, and I sort of know exactly what I would like to embroider on the bottom and around here, so some lovely stitches are going to be coming your way, and so I hope you like that beginning of a new page. I've got something else to show you. I've been getting a new box. There's another cutlery canteen. It's got a broken hinge and it's a bit in a state, and the inside is still full of, you know, old stuff to come out. But that's going to be another thread storage that I can sort out. It's the same size as the one you see me using all the time in dimensions that way, but it's really deep. So again, it's going to be something that gets a false bottom, or some way that I can store things underneath, because I won't want to waste the space. And where is it? And I think I will take it totally apart, because if I leave the lid on, well, yes, I can close everything off, but when I'm working I'd have to have the lid standing up. And plus, this is good storage, but not if I have to put the lid on. So it's likely to get totally, yeah, I think those hinges will be coming out, and all the insides will be coming out, and it'll be another upcycle for my threads, because I do love my threads, being in the old canteen. And I got this from a shop in Barnard Castle just at the end of last week. Actually, it was just Saturday. In an antique shop, believe it or not, which I was just looking around, but then asked the man whether he had any empty canteens of cutlery, and even ones that were broken, that I was quite happy to have. And so I was really pleased with what I paid for that, because it wasn't very much. Anyway, that's another thing. It might come up or it might not, because I've already done a box upcycle. So unless I do something different with it, just expect to see it getting used all of a sudden. And I think that is it. I'm trying to film a garden update, so as long as the weather improves, maybe that's what you will see on Sunday, because I have been carrying on with my gardening, and until it started to absolutely pour down, everything was looking really lovely. It's probably all getting flattened at the moment, but I'm hoping that that's maybe what I'll manage to get done for Sunday. We'll see. Anyway, thank you very much for watching and liking and sending comments and everything, and I will see you on Sunday. That's if you visit me at Marion's World. Thanks a lot, everyone.